L2. This singer is about to realize that there's a lot more to lose than just your career. It's been 6 days since Rose's death in the first film, when her boyfriend Joel was cursed by the Smile Demon. He knows that he'll be killed if he doesn't do something fast. And the only way to escape the curse is by passing it on to someone else after making them witness a death. Sitting across from a criminal's house, he waits until a red Porsche pulls into the driveway before rushing up to the man and forcing him to go inside. They find his brother sitting on the couch, but Joel warns him not to try anything. After confirming that these two are killers themselves, he tells the brother to watch before pulling out a switchblade and brutally stabbing the man to death. Panicking, the brother reaches for his weapon and the officer instinctively fires back, but that was his biggest mistake. The man quickly dies from his injuries and Joel freaks out knowing that the plan did not work. But that's when he turns around and realizes that someone else was there the entire time. It's just some random guy named Lewis who doesn't even know what's going on. And the bad news is that now he's the one with the curse. Before Joel can even explain, 3 more criminals pull up in a G-Wagon, forcing him to retreat back inside. Taking cover in one of the rooms, he's able to escape through a window just as the ops kick the door down, and even manages to dodge all 7 shots fired randomly in his direction. But what he can't dodge is the Dodge Ram 1500 pickup truck that absolutely obliterates him when he runs out into the street, leaving a trail of blood, guts, and body parts behind. That makes 3 down, with 3 more.
Lewis saw his face, but that problem would take care of itself in about 3 to 6 days, so he would have been home free if he'd managed to escape. And that's always why you need to look both ways before you cross the road. The next mistake came down to his choice of targets. His choice made a lot of sense from a moral perspective, because, after all, you can't lose too much sleep over sicking the demon on 2 guys who totally deserve it. But when you go after criminals, you have to expect the unexpected. As a police officer, Joel should have known that business like this often has a lot of customers coming and going, so with that in mind, he should have been a lot more careful about scouting the house first, making sure that only the 2 brothers were inside. He also chose to go during broad daylight when they're alert and ready for anything. Knowing these guys' habits, I would have waited until later when they've been partying all day and then tried to catch them in a vulnerable state where they'd be a lot easier to manage. Of course, Joel was working against time here, but it's possible to buy some time by using the demon's own habits against it. Remember, it needs a witness to transfer to, so as long as he kept himself isolated, he could have waited for the perfect moment to jump on the brothers. They're also heavily armed, and you can't expect the guy to just cooperate after you killed his brother right in front of him. The first thing should have done was have their brother throw his weapon away and then tied him up so that he wouldn't be able to interfere with Joel's plan. It might not seem like it, but Joel actually got off pretty easy. At least he's dead, but now it's Lewis who has to deal with this demonic possession. The worst part is he has no idea what the hell is going on, but there's a way that he can figure it out. Joel didn't have time to explain, but if Lewis was paying attention during the encounter, the events themselves actually told him everything that he'll need to know. As the witness died, Joel was trying to keep him alive, shouting it needs someone to pass to. Then once Joel noticed Lewis, he started maniacally apologizing that it wasn't meant for him, and shouting to the air that he didn't know anyone else was here.
Unlock your full potential by following your passion at Orange Coast College. Whether you dream of pursuing a career in technology,
Shouting to the air that he didn't know anyone else was here. It's a pretty big logical jump to make, but from this information, we can piece together that he's just been possessed by a demon that can only be transferred to someone else by making them witness a death. And even though he might not believe it at first, as things slowly deteriorate for him over the next few days, I have no choice but to accept it's true. That's the bad news. But the good news is that Joel also just laid out the entire escape plan for him. Since Lewis is already involved with criminals, it shouldn't be too hard for him to find 2 more bad guys to choose as his next targets. And as long as he learns from Joel's mistakes here, he should be able to escape the curse before it kills him next.
A few days later, music superstar Sky Riley is preparing for her upcoming tour. It's been a year since she was badly injured in a fatal car accident that caused the death of her boyfriend Paul. And although she puts on a happy face for crowds, inside she's still struggling with the trauma. She's trying to get her life back on track after finally kicking her bad habits. Tonight, everything is at rehearsal, Sky's going hard, practicing the routine for one of her songs when she accidentally tweaks an injury in her back. She's clearly still recovering from the accident, but she demands to keep going even though her choreographer Anton wants to take a break. After practice, her manager mom Elizabeth warns her that she has a busy schedule tonight, telling her to go to bed as soon as they get home. But Sky here has other plans. She needs something to manage the pain, so she texts her old buddy Lewis and he tells her to come over. As soon as they get back to the building, the singer immediately sneaks out and takes a cab over to Lewis's place. When she knocks on the door, he yanks her inside and holds a f***ing samurai sword up to her neck. She can tell right away that this dude is leaking, bro. And the strangest thing is that he has no memory of sending those texts. Apologizing, he tries to explain that some really weird stuff has been going on. But when he sees that she's getting ready to leave, he quickly changes the subject and convinces her to sit down. Her buddy goes to get the stuff while she waits on the couch, turning off the TV when a badly timed story about her accident comes on the news. After a minute or two, she starts to wonder what's taking him so long, but when she tries calling him, the guy doesn't answer. Just then, Lewis here comes running out of the darkness, screaming like he just saw a ghost. Looking up, he becomes fixated on something that only he can see before falling to the ground and choking to death right in front of her. As Sky runs over to help him, he turns to look straight at her with a horrifying smile crossing his entire face. All of a sudden, her friend grabs a 35-pound weight and starts doing some extremely aggressive curls. And by the time that he's done, entire chunks of his face are just falling right off his skull. Terrified, Sky stares at him in a trance until he finally falls over dead, making 4 down with 2 more to go. She's about to call for help, but thinks twice when she looks around the room and realizes that the situation does not look good for her. Instead, she decides to sneak out without letting anyone know, but what she doesn't know is that her nightmare is just getting started. Back at home, Sky's anxiety is spiking again, and big clumps of her hair start falling out from stress. Unable to sleep, she's lying awake in bed when she hears a moist crunching sound from somewhere in the darkness, and looks up to see the horribly disfigured man standing over her. Startled, she clicks on the lights and the man disappears, but there's nothing that could prepare her for what's about to happen next.
Okay, this girl has too much on her plate, and the last thing that she needs right now is to get possessed by a demon. But there's some good news. She might be facing a lot of pressure because of her high status, but she also has a lot more resources at her disposal than the average person. So what she needs to do now is stop making impulsive decisions that only end up getting her in trouble and focus on getting her life back on the right track first. Sky here has to deal with the challenge of getting ready for a world tour, while also recovering from both the physical and mental trauma of her accident. Instead of pushing herself to the brink, she needs to listen to Anton's advice. Take it slow and go through her own professional resources to manage the pain. If she'd done that, then she never would have ended up in this approach. With that being said, I think the fact that she didn't instantly leave when he answered the door with a samurai sword says a lot about this girl's survival instincts. And it's not good. Trust me, if someone is that paranoid, there's probably a reason, and you don't want anything to do with it. As you can see, it only took 10 minutes from walking in the door before everything went to shit. But Sky really should have called the police here. As bad as it might have looked for her, trying to cover it up is much worse, and it's only going to make you more afraid, isolated, and paranoid, which is exactly what the demon wants. It's only been a few hours, and Sky here is already having visions, which means that the possession is already setting in. Of course, she doesn't know what's really going on yet, so the first step to solving the problem is making sure that she can trust her own mind. Starting like now, Sky needs to get plenty of sleep, stay hydrated, therapist who can help her process the trauma. She also needs to stay away from perception of reality. If she knows that she's taking care of herself mentally, the possibility that this is all in her head, taking her one step closer to actually solving the problem. Instead of denying it, she needs to accept that what happened with Lewis was far from normal and start trying to find out why he suddenly went insane. Her best source of information would have been at Lewis's apartment, but she could still sneak back to search for any evidence, notes or messages that he might have left behind. If she had a chance to look through his phone, she could check his calls, messages, and search history to see if anything sticks out. The only problem is, once the police find his body, so she'll have to be careful that the authorities aren't watching if she decides to go back. Otherwise, she can try contacting any mutual friends between them and see if he mentioned anything to them before he died. Her other option is to do what Rose and Joel did and research similar incidents to see if there were any survivors, because that person could explain her options for how to get rid of the curse. However she decides to approach it, the sooner that she figures out what's really going on here, the better her chances of survival.
At work the next day, her mom notices that Sky looks tired and suggests that she reaches out to her ex-best friend Gemma for some help. It's been a while since they spoke, and it's safe to say that they didn't end things on good terms, so she's doubtful that the girl even wants to hear from her. That's when the record company boss Darius shows up, saying how he needs her to give a speech at a fundraiser the following night, and he puts her in a position where she literally can't say no. They spend the rest of the day taking press photos, but while she's dressing up in all these goofy outfits, all that she can think about are the very real consequences of what happened the night before. Feeling desperate, she's about to text Gemma when she gets a message from an unknown number that stops the girl dead in her tracks. Whoever it is wants to know if she was at Lewis's apartment, but before she can even decide how to respond, she hears another snap from somewhere in the room. When she turns around, it looks like no one's there, but when she looks in the mirror, she sees zombie Lewis standing directly behind her. The vision matches her movements as she walks back and forth until suddenly it jams its fingers in her mouth and pulls her lips into that horrific smile. The singer screams as the door to her room opens for real, but this time it's just her management team saying how they could see how she was doing. Later that day, Sky is busy doing a meet and greet for her fans. She's playing along even though her life is secretly falling apart, but the whole vibe changes when a creepy dude named Alfredo starts getting a little too excited about her perfect skin. Security drags the guy away, but the fans are still waiting for her, and she only has a second to breathe before going back out. Just when she thinks it's over, they call the next person's line. This time, it's a young girl with that same haunting smile. The girl only stares at her, refusing to say a word as Sky nervously reaches out and signs her shirt. When they take a picture, she keeps staring directly at her instead of looking at the camera. But nobody else even seems to notice that there's something wrong. Back at her apartment, she nervously thinks about responding to the mystery text, but finally decides to just call Gemma instead. The call gets sent to a voicemail, but her friend calls her back right away, and after some awkward catching up, she agrees to come over later that night. While she's waiting, Sky takes a seat at the piano, but just when she's deep in her feelings, she hears a glass hit the floor in the kitchen. Worried, she gets up to check it out, but the apartment door is locked, so it must have just been an accident. Grabbing a broom from the closet, she's about to clean it up when she notices a yellow shirt lying on the floor. It's the same one that she signed for that creepy dude Alfredo. And as she looks around the corner, she sees a trail of his dirty laundry leading into the bedroom. That's when the lights go out, and when she looks down the hall, she sees the man standing there, just smiling at her in the darkness. All of a sudden, he charges towards her at a dead sprint as she rushes for the door, yanking it open only to find Gemma waiting on the other side. Without explaining, she picks up a weapon and goes back towards the hallway. But now it seems like nobody's there. It looks like the whole attack was all in her head. She's losing track of time, with no way to tell whether an hour or 5 minutes has gone by. But she's feeling better now that her friend is here to help.
Тащу вам пушку, она мощная.
But she's feeling better now that her friend is here to help.
Okay, damn girl, you know it's bad when even Alfredo over here can tell that you're sad on the inside. Sky here needs to get a grip before this spirals out of control, but the problem is, she still can't really decide if this is happening or it's all in her head. The girl has had a busy couple of days, things are now only ramping up. Seems like someone out there knows what happened at Lewis's apartment, but she has no way to tell if they're an enemy or a friend. Consequences of responding are so high, she needs to be extremely careful. On top of that, she's having a full-blown auditory and visual hallucinations, making it even harder to trust her own perception of reality. Which brings us to that absolutely bizarre interaction back at the meet and greet.
Заряжаю канистровый снаряд!
Creepy guy Alfredo, although that was definitely bizarre. I'm talking about that creepy smiling girl. This shows that she's not even safe out in public. The entity can come for her at any time, any place. And if it causes her to have another outburst in front of the fans, it can make things even worse. Now, with that being said, what she hasn't realized yet is that this incident with the girl could be her first step to realizing what the hell is really going on, because the entire interaction was captured on camera. If she goes back and watches the tape with at least 2 trusted friends, she can confirm, without a doubt, whether the girl was actually smiling or if it was all just a hallucination. The camera doesn't lie. It's critical to double-check her own reality as often as she can. That way, she can't be tricked by her own mind. I'd start keeping a journal of every event, taking the time, place, and details to help keep the memories more consistent, and to see if any patterns start to appear. Whenever she sees something strange, Sky should start recording it, giving her more tangible evidence of reality that she can use to resist the manipulation. She can perform reality checks by looking at the clock to see if time is distorted, or by dragging around a single small object that only she knows the details of that she can use to stay closer to reality. As a wealthy celebrity, she can easily hire as much as will make it easier to watch out for any traps. Speaking of traps, she needs to be very careful about how she responds to that message, and that's if she decides to respond at all. I'd plug the number into a reverse phone search or hire a private investigator if it comes up as unknown. They can extract the routing data from the message to get the approximate location from where it was sent, which should help us narrow down who they are and what they want. If she's careful, Sky might be able to stop this before it gets any worse, but it won't be long before it's already too late.
When Gemma asks her what's wrong, the singer has trouble figuring out even where to begin. After gathering her thoughts, she tries her best to explain what happened back at Lewis's apartment, telling her how the guy was acting paranoid about something before he finally snapped. Gemma warns her not to call the police, supporting her fear that this would ruin her life. But she's a true ride or die, so even though the story sounds crazy, she offers to spend the night if it'll help Sky feel better. In the middle of the night, the singer wakes up from a terrifying nightmare about the accident that killed her boyfriend. She tries getting some comfort from her friend, but strangely, Gemma starts acting completely different. She tells her that she's a horrible person. Her friend's face transforms into that big evil smile, only to suddenly morph into a skull with headlights shining out of her eyes and mouth. Freaking horrified, Sky jumps out of bed, but suddenly, now it's broad daylight again, and Gemma is standing in the door with 2 cups of tea. Looking at the time, she's starting to realize that it's already past 9, meaning that she's late for work. She asks Gemma to come with her, but the girl can't bail on her other commitments so abruptly, and their conversation gets cut short when Elizabeth shows up to speed things along. The label executives are pissed at her for showing up so late, but Sky hits the dressing room and starts going through her pre-game rituals. This time, they're doing a full rehearsal with costumes, lights, and everything, and it starts off with everything going fine. But in the middle of the performance, a vision of her boyfriend Paul suddenly appears in front of her. Startled, the girl stumbles backwards as the bones snap in her leg. But while she's lying on the floor screaming in agony, everyone else just stands there staring at her. Anton rushes up to the stage, but now that the lights are on, she can see that her leg is perfectly fine. Naturally furious, she gets up and starts shouting at the backup dancers, convinced that one of them must have been in the wrong place. But to everyone else, it's clear that she's making things up in her head. The singer storms off to her dressing room, but just as she's getting up, she sees her assistant Josh walking out with that terrifying smile on his face. Opening the door, she's horrified to discover that her entire dressing room is completely trashed, and she knows right away that they're going to blame it all on her. That's exactly what happens when the mother shows up, because there's just no logical reason why Josh would do something.
Дайте им
Back on the stuff. The girl insists that it's not what's happening, even though she can't come up with a better explanation. To Elizabeth, it seems like her daughter is spiraling into anxiety from all the pressure of the tour. But they can't just walk away now, especially with the fundraiser coming up later that night. Sky begs her mother to understand that she's not ready to get back on stage in front of a crowd, but the woman insists that they need to keep their promises, leaving her with no choice but to play along. Behind the scenes at the gala, Sky keeps blowing up her friend's phone with texts, but now the girl's not responding, and she's coming off more demanding than anything else. Just then, she gets another text from the mystery woman saying that they know who she is. A fly keeps buzzing around her face, causing Sky to smear her lipstick, but now it's time for her big appearance, and she nervously heads out on stage to give her speech. Okay, Sky here clearly isn't learning from her mistakes, because if she was, then she would be running in the opposite direction. Right now, she's relying solely on Gemma as her only lifeline, but this is a risky choice, because the demon is already using her friend. By a demon, the evil spirit always gains control by systematically breaking down their mental defenses. Since it's always watching, it saw how freaked out she was by that interaction with Alfredo back at the stadium and decided to use that fear against her. The hallucination in the apartment put her in the most vulnerable mental state unquestionably accept Gemma's help when she happened to show up at just the right time. Then she immediately moved up by having no one to talk to, and essentially told the demon exactly what it wanted to know. This is why I said before that she needs multiple ways to test her power, because if the demon can test the then she can't even trust her own best friend. The good news is that she has two easy ways of figuring this out. Building to see if Gemma was really there, and double check with her mom to make sure that she actually saw Gemma in the morning. The same goes for the incident at Sky's dressing room. The worst part is that this was actually her best chance yet to prove that something outside of her control was going on. But by instantly flipping out instead of reacting to the situation logically, she only made everyone question her sanity even more. It should be really simple to check the cameras and see if Joshua actually went in there and destroyed the place or not. And either way, this would give her more evidence to back up what she's trying to tell them. The demon started off by making her doubt herself, but now it's changing strategy. Whenever she's in front of crowds, it's making her freak out, causing even her own team to lose trust in her, and making her feel that much more isolated. It started off as just a smiling girl in the crowd, but now it can make her hallucinate injuries and even entire people out of thin air. If she goes up on stage, it's only a matter of time before something goes horribly wrong. They're pressuring her into doing it because of a commitment, but the honest truth is that pop stars flake on their commitments all the time and don't get in much trouble. She's been through worse, and I think she can handle the fallout for not showing up at the gala. And if she plays her cards right, she can make people look like assholes for even questioning her. Her career is going to take a lot of heat, but personally, I'd rather keep my life, so I'd walk right out of this gala and get back to focusing on my own survival. But as usual, Sky here is about to give the demon exactly what it wants. She starts reading off from the teleprompter, but within seconds, the words suddenly come to a stop. With nothing prepared, all that she can do is start freestyling off the dome in an attempt to save it. But it only takes her 2 sentences before things start getting way too personal. And the vibe in the room just gets more and more awkward the longer it all goes on. Instead of giving an inspirational speech, she goes off on this whole existential tangent about how success can't fix the miserable person who she is inside. And meanwhile, everyone's just sitting there wondering when they're going to cut her mic. That's when the teleprompter starts working again, and Sky here tries to wrap it up. But when she reaches the end, it tells her to introduce her dead boyfriend Paul. Looking into the crowd, she watches in horror as he gets up from the table and starts slowly approaching the stage. The singer screams at the top of her lungs that her boyfriend is dead, and when she opens her eyes,
The new How to Train Your Dragon menu is now at BK. Get it before it disappears. Oh, toothless.
that her boyfriend is dead. And when she opens her eyes, the vision is finally gone. She's made a total fool of herself in front of everyone there, but just when it looks like things can't get any worse, an old woman tries to comfort her, and she completely flips out, sending the lady crashing to the floor. Everyone has their cameras out, meaning that it won't be long before this hits the news, and now it looks like Sky's worst fears are actually coming true. She goes home to her closet full of everything that she could ever want, but now the only thing that she wants is for her friend to answer her phone. That's when the mysterious number starts texting her again, saying how she's in danger. This time she finally responds back. They tell her that the hallucinations are actually real, sending her a video of Lewis on the night before his death. In it, he keeps focusing on something in the corner that only he can see, saying how it just stands there smiling at her. All of a sudden, it appears right next to Sky in her own apartment, and she falls to the floor in shock. But of course, it was just another mind game. Completely fed up, she puts on a quick disguise and gets in the elevator, texting the mystery man for a public place where they can meet up. Her mom tries calling just as she arrives at the bar, but she ducks the call and heads inside, trying her best to keep a low profile. The man waves her down from a booth at the very back, and the girl sends his picture to Gemma just in case he tries anything funny, promising that he means no harm. He introduces himself as Morris, and he explains that he's been tracking the Smile Demon ever since it killed his brother. He was trying to warn Lewis, but got there too late, where he found her number on the dead guy's phone. According to him, the demon can only be seen by the current host, and it feeds off their negative energy until it finally drives them insane, when it kills them in front of a witness and moves on to the next person. They can't ask the police for help, but he has a plan for how they can stop it once and for all. He wants to break the cycle by stopping Sky's heart in a room without any witnesses. Without leaving the host, the demon should hopefully die off, and then he'll use his skills as an ER nurse to bring her back curse-free. This is all too much for Sky to handle, and the whole time, she's been getting calls from her managers non-stop. The more that she panics, a crowd starts to gather as they realize who she is, forcing her to rush out of the bar before she can even make up her mind.
Okay, this right here changes everything. Sky finally found someone who actually knows what the hell is going on. Not only that, but they have a plan for how to stop it. And to me, that actually sounds like it should work. It's risky, but if you break it down, Morris's plan actually makes a lot of sense. He wants to intentionally induce a cardiac arrest, causing Sky's heart to stop beating and the oxygen to stop circulating throughout her body. When this happens, the person is pronounced clinically dead, but that doesn't mean there's no coming back. At least, not yet. For a brief period, their brain is actually still alive, and you have about 2 minutes to supply it with oxygen. The damage is irreversible. That's a pretty small window for success, but as we're going to find out in just a minute, Morris here even accounted for that. He wants to try the plan in a walk-in freezer, using cold to extend the Sky's lifespan. The strategy is called controlled hypothermia, and it's actually used in real-life emergencies. The lower temperatures reduce the body's metabolic rate, meaning that the cells consume oxygen a lot slower. When cells don't get enough oxygen, they release toxic chemicals and cause damage even after being resuscitated, a condition known as reperfusion injury. By slowing down this process, they can give themselves as long as 30 minutes before the lack of oxygen causes too much damage, greatly increasing Sky's chances of survival. Then all that's left to do is bring her back with a dose of adrenaline, and and as long as their timing is right, they should be able to pull this off. Since the demon needs someone to transfer to, doing it in a room with no witnesses should break the chain and finally release Sky from the curse. She's dead either way, even if it doesn't work, so when you think about it, she has every reason to give it a try. But there's just one problem. We need to make sure that we can trust Morris first. This should be simple enough because just like always, Sky is surrounded by fans and cameras everywhere she goes. All she has to do is look at the photo she sent to Gemma or try to find recent videos tagged at the location, and she'll have definitive proof if Morris was ever there or not. Even if he turns out to be just another hallucination, she can still find a way to try to plan on her own.
Reaching her wit's end, Sky decides that her only option is to bail before the situation gets any worse. Grabbing her suitcase, she's rushing to pack her things when she tweaks that end up bringing her back again. And this time, the frustration causes her to officially crash out. Grabbing a mirror from the counter, she chucks it through the glass shower on the other side of the room, and the outburst finally helps her calm down. Just when she thinks it's over, she goes back to the hall and turns to a squad of smiling demons blocking her path. They all look like fans dressed in merch from her tour, inching closer and closer every time she moves, freezing in place whenever she stops. The monsters stare down at her like wild animals about to pounce. When she gets for the door, they all get up and start chasing after her in some kind of bizarre interpretive dance of death. Unimpressed by their dance moves, she's just about to reach the door when the demons surround her and drag her back in. They slam her into the piano and start stealing pieces of her, grabbing at her body with their demonic hands. As she screams, one of the arms forces its way into her mouth, going all the way up to the elbow until she finally blacks out. While unconscious, she relives the memory of the night that happened in the accident. They'd been having a substance-fueled screaming match on their drive home from whatever party when he made the ultimate mistake and called his girlfriend crazy until he took his life. As the car hits the trees, she suddenly wakes up in a hospital bed with her mom assuring her that everything is going to be fine. Apparently, they found her passed out on the living room floor and took her to a private clinic where she can rest up before the tour starts tomorrow. Sky starts asking for her phone, but the woman refuses to give it to her until she calms down. Desperate, she starts begging her to just postpone the tour, but too many people have invested too much money for her to back out now. So the only way it's happening is if she checks herself into rehab. Even then, they'll still get sued into oblivion and both of their careers will be done forever. But to Sky, it seems like her mother only cares about making money. The woman explains that they've given her too many second chances, but if she wants to throw it all away, then there's nothing that she can do to stop her. Suddenly, her face transforms into the demonic smile as Skylar realizes that the demon is back. Shattering a mirror with her bare hands, she picks up a piece of broken glass and just starts going full Swiss cheese with that thing. And there's nothing that the girl can do but pull out her IV and run for the door. Reaching for the handle, the singer realizes that she's the one holding the glass, and a look of shock crosses her face as the horrifying truth sinks in. Looking down, she sees that her hospital gown is covered in blood, and her mother is slowly bleeding to death on the floor. The girl tries snapping herself out of it, wishing that it was all just a dream, but that makes 5 down with 1 more to go, and that's when Josh knocks on the door.
Okay, this is one of those moments where I think we all know what I'm about to say next. Holy shit, girl, that was not on the vision board for 2024. Pop stars get caught up in all kinds of drama all the time, and they almost always land on their feet, but I think the only place you'll be performing now is a padded cell, and that's if you're lucky, because Sky, you have astronomically f***ed up. What you just did definitely put the nail in the coffin, but the truth is that you've been totally screwed ever since that night at Lewis's apartment. And it's not just because of the demon. Forget the public backlash. Do you realize how much trouble you'd be in when the police found out? We're talking prison time, when all you had to do was just be honest about your mistake. Sure, it would have been embarrassing, but that's a lot better than intentionally covering up a death. And from that moment on, it was all downhill from there. After literally the first night, the evidence was absolutely piling up that you weren't just having a mental breakdown, you were caught mysteriously weird shit, and it was obvious that you couldn't trust your own perception. I mean, how many hallucinations was it going to take before you said to yourself, you know what, I should probably get this checked out? But instead of doing anything about it, you just keep pushing yourself to the brink, both mentally and physically. And it looks like now, you finally snapped. The craziest part is, this isn't even the first time you've killed someone. No wonder you feel so guilty over Paul's death. It was completely your fault. I'm starting to realize the smartest person of all was Gemma here, because at least she had the common sense to cut you off when she realized how toxic you are. If you think things are bad now, then you have no idea what's coming next. But one thing's for sure, Sky, you have seriously f***ed up.
Rushing over, Sky slams the door shut and pretends that she's changing, sending Josh away on a mission to find a soda. As soon as he's gone, she quickly puts on a hoodie and covers her mom up with the blanket, taking her phone as she rushes for the exit. Just then, Gemma happens to find her, saying that she can't be caught with the driver, and the singer takes this as her opportunity to escape. Running up to the limo, she forces the driver out and jumps behind the wheel, but Gemma refuses to let her go alone, and the girl slips away just as the police get to the scene. As they're speeding through the city, Sky starts texting the nurse, saying that she's finally ready to try his plan. He responds right away with an address on the other side of the city, and she tells Gemma to head over there as fast as she can. Sky here is just starting to feel a slight sense of relief when she gets a phone call from Gemma. Confused, Sky asks if she's been to her apartment.
I think Tempe is unique because it's kind of where everything happens, you know, all the concerts. It's more of like a city, honestly. We got football, we got basketball.
When she gets a phone call from Gemma. Confused, Sky asks if she's been to her apartment, but Gemma reminds her that they haven't seen each other for over a year. And when she looks over, the Gemma in the driver's seat is staring at her with that same evil smile. The demon only laughs at her frustration, but Sky decides that enough is enough, and keeps repeating to herself over and over again that this is all in her head until it finally works. Suddenly, she wakes up behind the wheel of an SUV somewhere on Staten Island, and takes off speeding towards the meeting point where Morris is waiting for her. There's no time to explain why she's covered in blood, and we go right to the side where he leads her back to the garage, walking freezer. The place looks like something straight out of Jigsaw's surgery school, but they need the cold to keep her brain alive long enough for Morris to bring her back. With no other choice, Sky lies down on the table and gets the shot, even thanking Morris for helping her do it. Before they start, he wants to know why she finally decided to trust him, and she explains that it's because there's nothing left for her to lose. But at least this way, he can stop it from hurting anyone else. Saying that he'll be right back, the man goes outside to grab something, but Sky starts to panic as soon as he's gone. All of a sudden, blood starts dripping down from the ceiling as a vision of herself from the night of the accident appears directly above her, opening her seatbelt and crashing down right on top of her. The demon lifts her up and pins her up against the wall, tormenting her as it tosses her across the room. Before she can run for the door, it holds her down and paralyzes her with its absolutely terrifying glare. But just when it looks like she's done for, Sky chomps down and bites the creature's thumbs off, giving her a chance to reach the needle. Thinking that she has it beat, she quickly takes a dose of the medication. But imagine her surprise when the plan doesn't work. Cackling, the demon reveals that it was all a trick, telling her to break a leg as it closes her inside of a dark box. When the doors open, Sky realizes that she's actually on stage for the first night of her tour, and there's a stadium full of fans all waiting to see the show. Looking into the crowd, she sees her mother in the front row telling her to smile. And at the end of the stage, there's another version of herself glaring at her with that demonic look on its face. All of a sudden, her stomach explodes as a massive, fleshy demon of borderline indescribable terror emerges from her body, leaving Sky too stunned to move. Reaching out, the monster tears open her jaw and forces its way inside her mouth. But to everyone else, it looks like she's having a seizure. Suddenly, the real Sky gets to her feet with the same terrifying smile, only to pick up a microphone and use it to give the last performance of her life. And now, it looks like the Demon's turn to go on its first world tour.
Smile 2. That is what's up. What a crazy franchise. What a crazy story. What a crazy villain. Man, I hope we keep this franchise going for a long time. We need Smile 10 up in this bitch. But anyways, I have to know, everyone out there, is there anything that you would have done differently, Meat Shields? Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out that How to Beat playlist for more videos just like this one. I'm the guy. See you in the next video, and have a damn good day.
Your eyes, baby, all I see is paradise. Girl, I no go lie to you, girl.
They say that the most dangerous criminals are the ones who know how to blend in, and this guy is about to put that theory to the test. Cooper here wants everyone to think that he's just your average goofy dad, and he doesn't care who he has to kill to keep his secret. For the first time in his life, he's the one who needs to be afraid, but trying to catch him won't be as easy as they think. We're here to praise Zaddy Josh Hartnett for returning to the movies, and also break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to survive the stadium raid in Trap. This concert is about to turn into a death trap. Driving in the car on their way to the stadium, this teenager Riley here tells her dad Cooper to run the red light, but he reminds her that it's always safer to follow the rules. The two get in line to head inside, but that's when Cooper notices something strange. The place is surrounded by heavily armed SWAT officers, and they look like they're more than just your average concert security. They're having a nice time chatting before the show, but as they walk through the stadium, he keeps noticing that every possible exit is being guarded by several officers. Taking their seats, he spots more of the officers watching the crowd from up in the balconies, and that they're even pulling aside certain families with no clear reason why. After a few songs, the man lets his daughter know that he's going to the bathroom, but it's not to go number 2. Inside, he opens up his phone and stops for a minute to intensely watch a live stream of a man chained up inside someone's basement. Meanwhile, he has no idea that a convoy of armored trucks just pulled up outside, and they brought FBI profiler Dr. Josephine Grant, who's about to become his new worst enemy. During the break between performances, the two of them decide to stop by the merch tent. Riley and another girl both want the same shirt, even though there's only one left, but he tells her to let the other girl have it. And the cashier is so impressed with his kindness that he decides to grab them one from the back. Seeing this as an opportunity, Cooper decides to ask the guy what's going on with all the cops. He says that he isn't supposed to tell anyone, but since Cooper seems trustworthy, he reveals that the whole concert was actually set up as a trap for a ruthless serial killer called the Butcher. They've got all of the exits locked down, and there's no way out of the building without going through a checkpoint besides getting backstage. Cooper here laughs it off, pretending to be just another ordinary NPC, but he's just realized that the officers are actually looking for him.
Okay, it looks like Cooper here is in a bit of a pickle. Now that he's inside and the police have already got the entire place surrounded, he can't just walk right out without risking the chance that somebody is going to identify him. There's no way out of the building without talking to the cops, except maybe backstage like the t-shirt guy said, but he'll need the proper credentials to get back there. To make things even more complicated, he has to account for Riley as well, and make sure that whatever he does next won't make her suspicious or put her in danger. On the bright side, the police still don't know exactly who he is yet. Right now, they're relying on a general description, so if his appearance changes, then it'll make him harder to recognize. It looks like they're working their way down, starting with the upper floors, which gives him time to think of a plan. This large crowd also provides him with some cover, splitting up the officers' focus and making it harder for them to single him out. In complicated situations like this, the key is to start by dealing with one threat at a time and shifting things back to give Cooper the advantage instead of the other way around. Since the police are looking for him based on his physical description, he should quickly do whatever he can to change his appearance. One way to do that is to go back to the merch tent and buy some new clothes. Not only will this throw them off, but everyone at the concert is going to be wearing the same stuff, so one of those hoodies can almost act like a sort of camouflage to help him blend in with the crowd even better. I mean, what are they gonna say? He's wearing a Lady Raven shirt? Maybe, but so are all of the other 20,000 people here. Next, I would try to create a distraction by doing something like pulling a fire alarm or faking a medical emergency. By causing panic in the crowd and redirecting the officer's attention, he can use the chaos to make a quick escape without being questioned. If he wants to go for a more stealthy approach, he can try using his psychopathic Riz game to get him and his daughter backstage. Like the t-shirt guy said, there's a chance that there won't be as much security in that area, but it also runs the risk of calling too much attention to themselves and blowing his cover early. For now, I think the best strategy is just to keep a low profile. He should use this time to scout the building for any exits that the officers might have overlooked, like air vents, windows, loading docks, and employee-only areas. Only resort to more drastic measures if he absolutely has to. Riley here wants to head back to their seats, but Cooper keeps wandering all over the building, secretly looking for any place that he might escape. The cops already have the employees-only areas and even the main entrance completely blocked off, but that's when Cooper here comes up with an evil plan. Noticing a drunk woman at the top of the steps, he quietly sneaks away from Riley and shoves her down without anyone seeing, hoping that the distraction might give them a chance to get out. While the officers rush over to help her, he tries sneaking right out through the front door, but quickly realizes that there are even more reinforcements waiting outside, and his only choice is to go back to their seats while he comes up with another plan. As the next song starts, the singer brings out a surprise guest through a hole in the floor, and this gives Cooper here another idea. He can't just leave without Riley, so he starts trying to convince her that they should both sneak down into the hole, acting like it would be a cool experience. The girl obviously thinks that this is crazy, and finally decides to ask him why he's been acting so strange. But he plays it off like he's just an awkward dad, determined to keep his secret for as long as he can. A little while later, Cooper goes to meet with the cashier, and the two of them head to the storage closet to get his t-shirt. While the man's grabbing the box off of a high shelf, he quickly seizes the opportunity to snatch the ID card out of his back pocket, allowing him to access the employees-only areas. Cooper asks the guy if they've made any progress with the investigation, but he says that the killer is still on the loose, mentioning that the police gave them all a secret code word to prove that they're really employees. Pretending to be curious, Cooper asks him if he can know the word, and since he's a firefighter, the cashier feels like he can trust him, revealing the code word is Hamilton. After getting the shirt, the cashier leaves, thinking that he's just made a new best friend. But in reality, Cooper here is still planning his escape. Using the card, he sneaks into an employees-only area looking for an exit, but ends up running straight into a large group of officers having a meeting. Instead of running away, he decides to eavesdrop on the conversation, trying to learn as much as he can about their strategy. As two more officers walk in behind him, he puts the badge on and quickly slips straight through the crowd, pretending to be an employee just grabbing a coffee. None of them have any idea that they're looking right at the killer himself, and on his way back out, he even grabs one of their radios, giving him the chance to listen in on all of their communications. At their seats, he puts on the earpiece just in time to catch some more important information. It turns out that they just arrested a different guy who was a wanted burglar, and he panicked when he thought that the cops were there for him. The doctor knows that the real killer won't make the same mistake and tells the officers to go back to searching the building. They don't exactly know what he looks like yet, but the captain reads off a list of possible descriptions, and one of them, a white male in his 30s with an animal tattoo on his right wrist, matches Cooper's appearance exactly. He covers the tattoo up with a slap bracelet, but the officers are steadily closing in. So he lies to Riley that he has to go back for his credit card, when in reality, he's looking to try out another plan. Back in the hallway, Cooper here is just about to pull the fire alarm when the doctor gets back on the radio. To his surprise, she calls out his exact plan, like she can already predict his every move, saying that only women and children will be allowed through if there's some kind of emergency, forcing Cooper to change his strategy once again. Okay, well, there goes that plan. I guess the distraction tactic isn't going to work. And now that he's got this FBI profiler anticipating his every move, the police already have a backup plan for pretty much anything that he does. It looks like it's time to go back to the drawing board. First, let's start with the threats. we know that the officers have the employees-only areas locked down, removing a crucial path that we could have taken. The fact that they're specifically looking for a man rules out 99% of the audience, and one of the descriptions matches him exactly. So it's only a matter of time before somebody notices. Now, with that being said, we've also picked up some new tools that could help us with the escape plan. He's got the employee ID card, and even though they're all being watched, those areas still give him more options for how to navigate through the building. With the passcode, he'll have a better chance of blending in as a worker if he's questioned. The radio is huge because it gives him knowledge of their plans and movements, allowing him to anticipate where the security is going to be the strongest, and possibly where he might be able to exploit an opening. He also knows all 6 of the possible descriptions, and only one described him. Now that he knows who they're looking for, he also knows who they're not looking for, so he should keep that in mind if he's coming up with a disguise. As for our plan, altering his appearance is still the best way to go, so I'd start with the old ladder and a hard hat trick. Basically, the theory is that if you look like a construction worker, then you can get by just about any type of security without being questioned. Back in the employees-only area, there were hard hats and uniforms hanging on the wall that he could borrow. Yeah. We take one of these, find a ladder or other general type of construction tool, and then just walk right out through the backstage access or a loading dock. Anywhere that would quickly lead out of the building while hopefully encountering as few officers as possible. Or if he finds a wig and puts on some tour merch, he could still try pulling the fire alarm and sneaking out of the building while blending in with the women and children. And it should hold up as long as he isn't questioned too closely. Cooper can help himself with the plan by using the radio to listen to the officers' movements throughout the show. By listening in on their conversations, he'll know if there's an opportunity during a shift change, or if something big happens that calls their attention away to another area. He could even use the radio as a distraction, or to lure an officer into a trap. If he positions himself by a door, he could call through on the radio that tricks the officers into briefly leaving the door unguarded, and then sneak.
When you shop in the Albertsons app, you can count on delivery in as soon as 30 minutes. Even if you can't count on your guest list staying small.
Then sneak out while they aren't looking. Or he could try to get one alone somewhere, ambush them, borrow their uniform, and walk straight out the front door. Here's something else that Cooper hasn't considered yet. If the police think that they've caught the killer, then they'll leave everyone else alone. To take advantage of this, what he needs to do is find someone who fits the description, and then frame them by planting incriminating evidence. As an example, he could write down something about one of the crimes that only the killer would know, slip the note into their pocket or backpack, and then call it in over the radio. The police think that they have their guy, and he gets to leave. It's a long shot, but it definitely could work.
Instead of going back to their seats, Cooper heads up to a level where he spots a door with an access to the roof, but it's already covered by 2 guards. He'll need to cause a distraction if he's going to get through, so he comes up with another clever scheme. Sneaking behind the counter at the snack stand, he stealthily grabs several bottles of cooking oil and throws them into the fryer before setting the machine to the highest temperature. A few seconds later, the jars suddenly explode, showering an innocent employee in boiling oil and broken glass. The woman screams out in pain as the officers quickly rush over to help her, leaving the door wide open for Cooper to sneak upstairs, and he grabs an apron on the way to help him blend in. Up on the roof, it isn't long before he's confronted by 2 lookouts, but he plays it off like he's just a worker, saying how he needed some fresh air after what just happened. He passes the speech check when they ask him for the code word, but he's taken by surprise when they ask to see a card that he was supposed to get during orientation. Luckily, he finds a wallet in the apron with exactly what he needs, and the officers never notice that it's supposed to belong to a completely different guy. Realizing that he has been fooled, he decides to ask about the woman in charge, and they explain that she's a profiler who's spent her entire career catching criminals just like him. He's able to keep his cover for now, but the roof really won't be an option, so once again, it's time to come up with another idea. Back inside, he ends up running into Riley, who's starting to get upset that he keeps disappearing. He explains that he was just talking to her friend's mom, promising to come down and watch the rest of the concert. But with every second that goes by, he's closer and closer to being caught. As the show goes on, Cooper's racking his brain for any chance at how he might get out of this when Riley mentions something that gets his attention. At every concert, Lady Raven picks a fan from the audience to be her dreamer girl, who gets to perform a song with her, and then have a private meetup with the singer backstage. Well, backstage is exactly where Cooper here wants to be. So while Riley is distracted by the performance, he decides to work his magic. Finding one of Lady Raven's employees, he strikes up a conversation and starts talking about how much his daughter loves her music. It turns out that this guy is actually the singer's uncle, and Cooper here points out that his daughter is in the crowd, lying that she recently recovered from leukemia as a way to get his sympathy. The plan works like a charm, and a few minutes later, they're approached by the man and his assistants, asking Riley if she wants to be tonight's dreamer girl, and inviting them both to come backstage. After being escorted right past the security, they're quickly greeted by another one of Lady Raven's assistants, who gives Riley a breakdown of exactly what to do when the singer calls her out on his stage. The girl is still completely oblivious to what's going on, and when he looks down at the crowd, he sees the profiler standing just a few feet away.
Okay, now it looks like we're finally making some progress, but Cooper still has a long way to go before he gets out of there. Right now, he's as close as he's ever been to escaping, but also as close as he's ever been to getting caught. The profiler is standing just a few feet away, and with everything that she knows, she'll be able to sniff him out in a second if they have even the slightest interaction. He's made it through most of the security, but now that they're backstage, there's a chance that someone could notice him right away and blow his cover if he does anything out of the ordinary. At the same time, Cooper has a big advantage here, because unlike out in the seats where everyone is either security or a guest and all eyes are on him, everyone back here is going to be busy with their different jobs at the show. Nobody who works on the production really has the time or interest in paying attention to what Cooper's doing. So he should be able to keep a low profile as long as he doesn't go out of his way to call attention to himself. Like the t-shirt guy said, this might be his only chance at finding an exit that isn't guarded, and he just has to make sure that he does it in the safest way possible. With that being said, it looks like one of the better options here might be to take advantage of something else that he noticed backstage. In this area, there's a sick tent where they're taking sick and injured girls from the crowd for medical attention. Cooper could combine this with the lie that he's told about Riley's illness as a way to get him out. The medical tent most likely has an emergency exit for people who need to get out of their attacks. While Riley's distracted, Cooper could approach some of the staff saying that she isn't feeling well and needs to leave the stadium like right now. Now it will blow his cover if they ask the girl about it, since he has no idea about the lie, but his way around this is just to say that she's embarrassed and warn them not to bring it up. It's a believable story, and the nurses there probably wouldn't ask too many questions. By leaning into the concerned dad angle, he'll naturally be making himself more believable and less suspicious. Then all he has to do is come up with a lie to Riley about why they had to leave the concert early. But it's a lot easier to trick one teenage girl than to have to keep your cool while being questioned by the FBI. Being backstage also gives him the chance to create another distraction. As long as he's sneaky, he could unplug the speakers, mess with the power, or even try pushing the singer down some stairs like he did to that lady before.
Welcome to Big Tobacco's Fantasyland, where vapes are anti-aging. Because you're more likely to die younger from a stroke.
Lady before. While the crew are busy focusing on whatever issue he creates, he can use the turmoil to walk right out the exit, or even pretend to be an employee himself and act like he needs to get some equipment from outside decide to fix a problem.
It's officially Riley's time to shine, and while she's jamming out on stage, he notices that the profiler is closing in. Needing to get out of sight, he quickly grabs a sick girl who's waiting for help and carries her into the medical team, offering her an ice pack and some juice to feel better. Once again, the workers are so impressed by what a chill guy he is that they never think to ask any questions, and by the time that they're outside, the profiler is long gone. Now that it's almost time for Lady Raven's encore performance, the assistant tells them to wait here, saying how they'll get a chance to meet her once she comes backstage. Still working on his plan, Cooper asks if they can sneak out the back door once the show is over, and the woman agrees that it shouldn't be a problem. Right about now, it's starting to look like Cooper here might be home free, but the police still have a few more tricks left up their sleeves. After the performance, they're waiting outside the dressing room for a chance to meet the singer in person, when Cooper overhears some more important information. They're going to be stopping every man who tries to leave the concert, even the employees, which means that getting out just became even more difficult. The assistant says that Lady Raven will be right out, showing them the door that they'll exit through after they meet her, but there's a problem. It's yet another police checkpoint. And there's no way that Cooper is getting through without being questioned, unless he's personally escorted by the singer herself. They get their chance to meet the star a few minutes later, and now that Cooper here is starting to get desperate, he decides to risk it all for one last Hail Mary. Leaning in so that his daughter can't hear, he brings up Riley's imaginary condition, asking the singer for a minute to talk in private. He starts off with his usual goofy dad routine, but once he's sure that they're all alone, that's when his entire personality changes. Suddenly dropping the act, he openly reveals that he is the man that they're all looking for, and Lady Raven here is going to be his ticket out. Pulling out his phone, he opens up the live stream of the man in the basement, explaining that he can kill him at any time by remotely activating a container full of carbon monoxide. The only way to save his life is if Lady Raven plays along and sneaks him and his daughter out to her limo without being stopped by the police. Cooper makes it clear that he isn't playing around, and even tells her the victim's name just to add to the pressure. After thinking it over, she finally caves in, but what he doesn't know is that the singer here is already coming up with a plan of her own. With her leading the way, it's smooth sailing for Cooper, right past the guards and into the limo. Meanwhile, every other guy in the place is being pulled aside for questioning, but the profiler still feels like they must be missing something. As soon as they're out of the building, Cooper tells the singer to drop them off at the nearest point, but she has something else in mind. Just when they're about to get out, she stops Riley and asks the girl if she can come over to their house. Obviously, the daughter loves the idea, and while she's on the phone with her mom, Cooper takes out his own phone as a threat. But the singer doesn't fold, and after realizing that he can't get out of it, he just tells the driver their address like it's nothing, sending the message that he's still the one in control.
Okay, this chick has no idea what she's getting herself into. This was supposed to be a trap for Cooper, but suddenly it looks like things might be going the other way around. It takes a special kind of stupid to invite yourself over for afternoon tea at Jeffrey Dahmer's. So, I've got just one thing to say to you, Lady Raven. You just f***ed up. Don't forget, you're not just some random performer who had no idea what was going on. You've been thoroughly involved in this whole scheme from the very beginning. But then this guy just comes along, and because he's got backstage passes and a daughter, it's like you suddenly forgot all about who you were looking for. The FBI set up all of this security, which had to cost like tens of thousands of dollars, ruthlessly scrutinizing every single man in his 30s because they knew that one of them was the killer. But you decided that it would be a good idea to go into a private room with this guy where there were no guards or even any other witnesses to see what had happened. That's great news for Cooper, because you couldn't have made it any easier for him if you were actually on his team. But it kind of screws up the entire plan if you're going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt just because he has a very convincing dad routine. Don't you think? Even after what happened in the dressing room, you still had about 9,000 chances to get this guy caught on the way out the door. As you were walking down the hallway past an army of officers who were literally there just to arrest him, all you had to do was yell, "That's the guy! Get him!" And that's it. The game ends right there. But I guess he didn't want to risk killing the guy in the basement. He decided to wait for the situation to cool off a bit. Yes, that's understandable, but what in the hell would possess you to invite yourself over to his house when he was just 2 seconds away from just letting you go? Even if he escapes, you know his name is Cooper. He has a daughter named Riley, he's a firefighter, and he must also live somewhere nearby. With all of that information, the only way that it could be easy for the police to catch him is if he was sharing locations on his phone with the FBI director himself. Just let him go, tell the police everything you found out, and let the professionals capture you, instead of adding yourself to the danger and making things even more complicated for everybody involved. I'm counting at least 3 different ways that you could have ended this, and it's just off the top of my head. But instead, you made the absolute worst decision possible, thinking that you got one over on him, when literally all you did was walk straight into the house of a guy who's wanted for brutally killing several innocent people. What do you think he's going to do now that you've pissed him off? I mean, good luck, Lady Raven. You're gonna need it because you just all the way up.
Arriving at the house, the girl rushes out to see her mom and brother, excited to introduce them to her new friend. Wanting to be polite, Rachel here invites the singer in for something to eat, still completely oblivious to what's really going on. While everyone else is busy, Cooper takes the moment to have another private chat with their guest, reminding her that he'll kill the prisoner if she tries to spill the beans. He's back to acting like a family man a few minutes later. When Rachel asks about the concert, that's when things start to backfire. She starts telling the story of how it was all a trap to catch the butcher, explaining how the police found a receipt for the concert tickets at one of his safe houses, which is how they knew where to find him. Things start getting a little too close to home when she brings up the killer's description and psychological profile, so Cooper here decides that it's time for her to go. But before he can kick her out, she offers to play them a song on the piano. The singer calls Riley over to sit next to her on the bench, stealthily snatching the girl's phone when she does. Cooper here is busy filming the performance, still trying to keep up the nice dad act, until suddenly, something happens that he's never experienced before. He starts to have feelings. Just when he finally lets his guard down, Raven grabs the phone right out of his hands so that they can take a selfie. Cooper urgently starts asking for it back, but the girl gets up and runs straight to the bathroom, immediately locking herself inside. Now he's absolutely furious, but his phone is still unlocked, and she's able to go back to the screen of the guy who's trapped in the basement. They can talk to each other through the camera, and by asking him a bunch of questions about everything he can remember, she gets a few details about where he might be in the city. Promising to get some help, she decides to go live on her own account, asking all of her followers if they know where she can find a house with a blue door and a statue of a broken lion. It takes a minute for the chat to come through, and Cooper is bashing on the door the entire time. But finally, one of her fans says that she knows the right house. Raven tells the girl to get an adult and help the man in the basement before quickly texting her driver to call the police. Now all that's left is to get herself out, and she decides that it's time to tell the family the truth. Shouting through the door, she tells Rachel that her husband is the butcher, saying that she needs to run for her life. All of a sudden, the girl hears several loud thuds from out in the hall, and everything goes quiet as Cooper forces his family to move upstairs. That's when he starts coming back towards the bathroom, using his keys to open the door, and leaving the singer with nowhere else to run.
Okay, this was actually a pretty sick move, but the truth is that Lady Raven here should have never ended up in this situation to begin with. I don't know why she kept insisting on going into the house when she could have easily just turned down the offer to come inside. Now that she has Cooper's address, she easily could have gotten back into the limo and called the police, and then let them handle it instead of putting herself back in more danger. I mean, am I right or am I right? Now that he's about to break in, she's going to have to get more creative. Cooper here is a big guy, and he's a firefighter, so it won't be much of a fair fight if they have to square up. It also doesn't help that she just put him in a desperate scenario, making an already dangerous guy even more dangerous. The last thing that you should ever want to do is start giving a serial killer more reasons to kill you. Now on the flip side, the police are already on their way, so if she holds out long enough, then they'll get there. Her driver is also right outside, and if she can
get to him, then she'll be home free. Meanwhile, Cooper here only has a matter of minutes to figure out what he's going to do, so depending on how you look at it, she actually has him in a worse position than he has her. Right now, she's got two options: escape or fight. First, I'd try breaking out through that little window that's right behind her and climbing out to safety. Now, if that doesn't work, then the only choice is to kick this guy's ass. And even though you might not notice them at first glance, but the thing about your average family bathroom is it's actually full of improvised weapons. She needs to move quickly, but we'll start by putting soap and water all over the floor, right behind the door, making it slippery and causing Cooper to lose his balance when he comes in. Then, while he's on the ground, we're going to spray cleaning products in his eyes as a way to blind and stun him from the pain. Before he gets in, we need to search the room for any weapons, like a towel rack or a toilet tank lid that she can whack him over the head with if he's still trying to come after her, or a razor or a pair of tweezers in case things get up close and personal. Take him down, make a break for the front door, run to the limo, and get the hell out of there and let the police handle the rest, Raven. Knowing that he has her trapped, Cooper calmly tells the girl to hand over all of the phones, asking her who she was just talking to. When he finds out it was Spencer, he opens up the live stream and is furious to discover that the prisoner managed to escape, putting his hand on her shoulder to sense if she resists. He makes the girl go out to the garage where he grabs his bag of tools from a secret compartment in the wall. After forcing her into the passenger seat of the car, he tells the girl to put on some zip ties, but she decides to use a trick to get under his skin. Using what she learned from the profiler, she starts acting like she's Cooper's mom, trying to distract him by bringing out his inner demons, but the plan backfires, and it only ends up making him that much more pissed off. Snapping himself out of it, he opens the garage so that they can go to one of his safe houses, only to discover that his family somehow managed to escape, and they're standing in the driveway blocking the car. Shocked, Cooper realizes that he slipped up by locking them in a bedroom without checking to see if they could get through the window. While Cooper sits there trying to work out a plan, the singer quietly gets out of the car and goes to stand by the family, saying that they can leave in her limo. Instead of chasing after them, the man only gives them all a last-minute piece of dad advice, before calmly closing the garage door. The police show up just a few minutes later, Cooper watching from inside as a SWAT team surrounds the house. Going to the pantry, he slowly removes everything from the shelf. By the time that the officers bust down the door, Cooper here is already long gone, having escaped through a secret tunnel that leads into the neighbor's yard. But that was only the first part of his plan. After taking out one of the guards and stealing their uniform, he hops into the driver's seat of Raven's limo and speeds away, all without anyone noticing what's really going on. Once they're a safe distance away, Cooper turns down a dark side street and abruptly pulls over. Lady Raven here still even hasn't realized that she's in any danger, but she's hit with a bad shock when the man throws open the door and forces his way into the back seat. He handcuffs her to the bar before she can even react, taking off the disguise to show that it was her old buddy Cooper all along. And if she thought that he was mad before, he's really angry now. Getting back in the driver's seat, he says that he's taking her to a safe house nearby, and once they get there, he's going to make her pay for exposing the truth. Okay, well, third time's the charm, I guess. At this point, things are not looking good for our singer here. She's handcuffed, trapped, and fully at Cooper's mercy, with no reason for him to hide his true intentions anymore. All because she put him in a position where he has nothing left to lose. This is what you would call not ideal. He's about to take her to a location that the police are completely unaware of. If he manages to get her there, then she might as well cancel the rest of the tour, if you know what I mean. So it's time to start coming up with a plan, and fast. As long as he's driving, Cooper's going to have to divide his attention between her and the road, which gives her time to come up with an escape plan. Also, don't forget, she's not just another one of Cooper's average victims. She's a famous singer, celebrity type, so it won't be long at all before somebody realizes that she's missing. Even her driver should have noticed by now that the limo suddenly disappeared, unless Cooper somehow took him out too, which could mean that the authorities are already looking for them. Lady Raven here just has to survive and outsmart Cooper long enough for them to get there. The first thing she should do is start looking for anything nearby that might be able to help her out. The bar that she's handcuffed to should have champagne glasses, bottle openers, corkscrews, and maybe even a pen or another sharp item. And she could use these either to potentially unlock the handcuffs or as a weapon against Cooper for the next time that he confronts her. Instead of arguing with him, she should lean into Cooper's inflated confidence by pretending that she's totally defeated. This will make him think that she's given up on fighting back. Since he won't be paying as much attention to her actions, she can make more progress on the escape plan. While he's driving, she could cause a distraction by using her free hand to pelt him with something from the back seat. If she waits for the right moment, then she might even cause him to crash in a populated area, drawing the attention of witnesses and getting her help. Besides that, I'd keep one of those improvised weapons on my side, so that the next time that Cooper here came into the back seat, I could wait for the right moment to launch a sneak attack and get away. As they go, she should pay as much attention as she can to the surroundings of where he's taking her. That way, just in case she ends up in a safe house, she can know what route to take if she manages to escape, or where to tell the police to look if she's able to call for help. The problem is, once you're already in the safe house, it's already too late, so I'd do whatever I could to avoid ending up there, even if it meant fighting for my life. As they're driving through the city, Cooper admits that he felt the urge for the first time in a while when he saw her performing on stage. They end up getting stuck in traffic, and while he's distracted, the singer starts reaching to open the back window. Finally, she manages to get it cracked, and immediately starts begging the crowd outside for help. Cooper rolls the window back up, but by then, the fans have already surrounded the car. At the same time, the singer manages to get loose by pulling off the bar that she's cuffed to, and quickly jumps out into the crowd as the SWAT team rushes in to surround the vehicle. At this point, they aren't taking any chances. When he refuses to get out of the limo, the officers have no choice besides opening fire. But Cooper is not dead yet. Approaching the car, they're shocked to find that he actually set up a decoy before quickly putting on some tour merchandise and disappearing into the chaos. Meanwhile, the police are just leaving Cooper's house. Before she goes, Rachel asks the profiler about her husband, but the woman says that he was so good about hiding his true intentions that almost nobody could have seen this coming. The kids are staying with her sister for now, so the profiler says they'll leave 2 officers outside for the rest of the night. Several hours later, the woman is making herself a hot cup of tea, and all of a sudden she hears Cooper's voice coming from the kitchen. Now that he's had some time to think, he realized that there was just no way he could have slipped up and left the concert ticket at a crime scene, which can only mean one thing: Rachel here snitched. Here's how it went down. Cooper's suspicious activities made his wife think that he was cheating on her. The more that she was paying attention, she noticed the smell of cleaning products on all of his clothes, and would catch him lying to their neighbors without a second thought. One night, she followed him to a safe house where he'd go to think over his plans, left the receipt there, and put in an anonymous tip with the police. She hoped the investigation would prove her wrong, but it turned out that her hunch was right. Cooper here is more angry that she told on him than anything else, saying how they could have made things work for the kids if she'd let it go. As she crosses the room, Rachel quickly points out the pieces of pie left over from what was supposed to be Riley's big day, and convinces him to have one last slice before he kills her, too. Taking a seat, Cooper explains how he usually feels peaceful when he kills somebody, but this time he feels nothing but pure rage. It's something that he's never felt before, and it's because he knows that he'll never get a chance to see his kids again, blaming everything on Rachel even though it's completely his own fault. That's when Cooper finishes his slice, but when he looks down at his plate, he notices a strange white powder on the dish that he realizes is not sugar. It turns out that Rachel here found his killing bag and sprinkled some sedatives onto the pie when he wasn't looking, tricking him into eating it while he was too distracted to notice. Furious, Cooper pulls himself up from the table, struggling to get to Rachel before she can get away. Just then, he starts to have a vision of his mother standing at the front door, but as he goes over to see her, he's suddenly ambushed by 2 SWAT officers who already snuck into the house. Even though they hit him with the 2 tasers at once, Cooper here stays on his feet and starts kicking both their asses, until finally the profiler actually takes him down once and for all, or at least that's what they think. On their way out to the police van, these idiots actually stop to let Cooper fix something on his daughter's bike. Riley runs over to give him a hug, but after a quick goodbye, the officers load him into the back of the van, thinking that they finally have him caught. The only problem is, he's already using a part from the girl's bike to unlock his handcuffs. And it looks like it won't be long before Cooper here is back on the streets. Trap. M. Night Shyamalan's new movie, dope. And I really think it's cool that she gave her daughter a vehicle for her to write her own songs and play a pop star in a movie. I mean, how cool is that? I really enjoyed the movie, and I have to say, everything that went down gave me 90s movie thriller vibes. But let me know down in the comments if you would have done anything differently. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and check out that How to Beat playlist. Yeah, that one. For more videos just like...
And to think, we almost opted to watch TV. Pacifica, find your own way.
If you were kidnapped by a serial killer who wants to turn you to a human walrus monster, what would you do? This man won't stop until he's made the perfect creature, so I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the walrus lover in Tusk. This man is about to get a dead... If you are trapped in a time loop where you're murdered every single day, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the death loop in Happy Death. This girl is going to get murdered 10 times. Teresa here is walking to her friends and has no idea they planned a surprise party for her birthday. But as the girl walks towards an underpass, she sees a music box in the distance. It's playing the happy birthday song and she thinks it must be a prank. No idea she's about to get brutally murdered. The girl walks over to see who it might be from, but that's when she hears someone behind her. Turning around, the girl sees a masked man on the other end of the tunnel, and he's staring straight at her. Freaked out, the girl threatens to call the cops on him, and the guy silently walks out of view. Terrified, Teresa continues walking, but just as she makes it to the other side, the girl hears something behind her. The music box has started playing again, and that's when the man suddenly drops down from above, trying to stab her. Scared out of her mind, she runs away as fast as she can, but trips and falls to the ground. The girl looks back at the underpass to search for the man, but he's disappeared. That's when someone pulls on her hair, and the last thing she sees is a knife headed straight for her face. That's one loop down, with 10 more to go. Teresa has just been killed, but suddenly she wakes up in bed and looks around in confusion. Something is wrong, and the girl checks her phone, finding it's somehow her birthday again. This has all happened before, and that means her day has started all over, right back in her one-night stand bedroom. Embarrassed, Carter here apologizes to the girl as he hands over some Tylenol, but she's too distracted to listen. Nothing about the situation makes any sense, and the girl decides to leave, hoping that this might be a weird dream. But soon she will suffer another horrifying death. Teresa heads to the hospital and meets this doctor that she's been sleeping with. Making sure the door's locked, she tries to tell him about what just happened, but it sounds too crazy to believe. Instead, he kisses the girl, ignoring her concerns. But that's when Teresa remembers that the last time she was here, his wife nearly caught them together. Moments later, they hear a knock on the door, and just like she remembered, the wife is there waiting on the other side. The only way the girl can know this is if it's already happened before, and she leaves the hospital terrified, realizing that at the end of the day, she's going to be murdered. Okay, this is freaky as hell. If you've been murdered by the boss baby, only to realize that you've just cheated death, it's fair to say that this is the luckiest day of your life. Being stuck in a Groundhog Day time loop with a serial killer definitely sucks, but the good news is that we get to solve our own murder before it happens again. Now, your first instinct might be to ask someone for help, which is why Teresa here decided to tell her teacher that she's literally gone back in time. But this was a huge mistake. It should go without saying that a medical professional who's only interested in science is simply not going to take you seriously, even if you're sleeping with him, and it's clear that we'll have to figure out how to solve this on our own. Since we know that dying is what restarts the day, the best strategy we have is to use the memory of each death loop and analyze it to find out who our killer is. That's why if it were me, I would return to the crime scene and write down every detail from memory before it fades, because there's a lot of information to help us avoid getting murdered. Now, first of all, she was killed in this tunnel on the campus of her university, but what's interesting is that it also appears to be under construction. If you look here, you can see there are tons of roadblocks to redirect foot traffic, so the killer could count on no one being around at the time of the murder. This is not a coincidence, and it probably means this guy's very familiar with the school campus, knowing exactly where he could avoid any witnesses. With this in mind, it narrows down the list of suspects to include the students and school staff from the university, but we can take this one step further. The next thing to consider is how perfectly timed this was. In order for his plan to work, the killer would have had to know 3 things. The first is that Teresa would be traveling across campus at exactly 9:30 p.m. The second is that she would use this closed-off tunnel. And judging from this music box, the third is that he would also have to know it's her birthday. This is really damning evidence, because it just so happens the girl was on her way to a surprise birthday party organized by the members of her sorority. They were the only people that knew where she would be, and all these details narrowed down our pool of suspects to one single house. If it were me, I would use the next time loop and take another path to the party. Then, by simply observing which sorority members are missing, we can narrow down our suspects to a small handful of people. Teresa here is wasting time explaining her situation to others, and she won't realize her mistake until it's too late. That night, the girl is pressured to go meet her friends and heads out by herself. Passing through a crowd of students, Teresa suddenly turns around and remembers that this is where she died last time. She decides to take a different route to the party, but notices that all the lights in the frat house are off. Something is wrong, but she continues walking up to the front door and tries to open it, quickly discovering that it's locked. The girl thinks she might have gone to the wrong house and checks the building next door, but it's dead quiet. That's when Teresa turns back around and sees the killer standing right in front of her. Startled, she punches the guy in the face, but the lights suddenly turn on, revealing that her sorority arranged a surprised birthday party just for her. The killer was just a frat boy playing a joke, but soon the real murderer is going to show up and turn this party into a bloodbath. Later, Teresa hangs out with her sorority leader when the frat bro walks over. She apologizes for punching him, and he asks her to make it up by meeting him in private. The girl decides to accept his invitation and follows him to the second floor. Tracking the guy down to a bedroom, she walks inside, but finds no one's there. Taking a look around, she makes sure she's presentable, but suddenly the masked man appears behind her. She walks up to him to take off his mask, revealing that it's the frat boy in disguise, and he presses a button on a remote, activating his sound system. Neither of them can hear each other over the loud music, and the guy starts dancing by himself when Teresa gets a text message. Replying to her friend, she never notices the murderer sneaking into the room and brutally stabs the frat boy to death. Turning around, the girl tells the man that she's no longer in the mood and tries to leave, but then she notices the dead body on the floor. That's when Teresa realizes this is the killer and screams, dodging his attack at the last second. Grabbing a paddle, she slams it across his face and tries to escape, but the killer throws her on the bed. The girl knows exactly what's going to happen next, but there's nothing she can do to stop him as he breaks a glass bong before jamming it straight into her chest. That's 2 loops down, with 9 more to go. Okay, this just got complicated. Even though Teresa managed to avoid getting murdered the same way as last time, the killer still knew exactly where the girl would be. In future death loops, this becomes even more clear as he shows up in a variety of locations whenever she's alone. With this in mind, it's possible that the killer has a special way of finding out where she is and is digitally tracking Teresa's location. What's interesting is that before she first got killed, her roommate admitted that she changed the girl's ringtone to the birthday song. Not only does it mean that this girl knows her passcode and could have secretly downloaded a hidden tracking app onto her phone, but that she's also suspect number 1. With this in mind, the smartest thing to do is test this theory and go to a place where nobody expects us to be to see if the killer shows up. Now, assuming there's a way the killer's receiving GPS information from her phone, the smartest thing to do is leave campus and go somewhere that's both unexpected, but also convenient enough to get away with murder. This is the best way to lure the killer out of hiding on our own terms, and that's exactly why we need to bring some backup. If it were me, I would ask Carter here out on a date, and since it looks like they just had a one-night stand, it's very likely he'd say yes. Once he agrees, I would drive him out to a remote location where it's easy to be murdered, so that if the killer shows up, there's a good chance he'll try to defend us, and we can use him as a meat shield. Then, while he's being murdered, I'd use the opportunity to pull off the killer's mask and confirm their identity. It's a cold-blooded strategy, but the great thing about this scenario is that if the shit hits the fan, we can completely start over. As far as we know, up to this point in the story, there aren't any consequences if we die, and that means even if Carter here gets murdered, we can discover the killer's identity and allow ourselves to get killed, resetting time so that the boy gets from there, we can plan our next step through knowing exactly who is after us and hunt them down during the day when they least expect it. Suddenly, Teresa wakes up, gasping for breath, and quickly realizes that she's back in Carter's bedroom even though she's just died. Checking her phone, she discovers that it's her birthday again and gets back to her feet. Now the girl knows for certain that she's stuck in a time loop, and every time she dies, her life will reset to this exact moment until the murderer finds and kills her. Teresa storms out of the room as fast as she can, terrified that she will never be able to escape. Heading back to her sorority, the girl walks to her bed in silence, and her friend Lori notices that something's wrong. She asks what happened, happened, and Teresa explains that she's been reliving the same day over and over. It doesn't make any sense, but the blonde tries to convince her, revealing she already knows about the cupcake Lori made and the surprise party happening later tonight. Her friend still doesn't believe her, and that's when she explains she's going to be murdered. Concerned, the girl suggests that she stay in the room, and the blonde agrees, but this will be a huge mistake. That night, Teresa boards up the window and barricades the door with the dresser, making sure the killer can't break in. It's a clever plan, but she's interrupted by the sorority leader asking if she's going to the party. Suddenly, the power goes out across the campus, and the girl notices it's happening at the exact same time as it did in the previous loops. Later, she settles down to watch TV and tries to change the channel, but realizes that the remote is missing. She looks around her room, but that's when she discovers something strange on her desk. It's a birthday card, and inside is a spitting baby face with a threatening message. This must have been sent by the killer, and that's when the TV shuts off. Getting worried, Teresa walks over and turns it back on, seeing a news report about a local murder, but it suddenly turns off again. The girl realizes that the killer must have the remote, and that means he's hiding in this room. Panicking, she looks around and hears a strange noise coming from the bathroom. Going to investigate, Teresa walks inside to confront the killer, but gets distracted by the TV playing a commercial. The murderer must have turned it back on, but the girl has no idea who's right behind her. Suddenly, he lunges to attack, and Teresa manages to dodge him, hitting the man straight in the face. She tries to open the door and escape, but the murderer quickly rushes at the girl, killing her once again with his knife. That's 3 loops down with 8 more to go.
Chipotle heat with a touch of sweet. New Chipotle honey chicken takes heat and sweet to a whole new level.
It's 3 loops down with 8 more to go. Okay, this is getting out of hand. Teresa here is trying her best to adapt, but now she's been killed in 3 completely different locations, and it means she's now using these death loops to her advantage. Boarding up your room is still a good idea, but the biggest problem is that she's waiting for the killer to show up with nothing to defend herself. It's incredibly stupid, and if she was thinking clearly, she'd realize there are 2 different ways to approach this situation. The first is to relive each day without changing our routine, so we can plan ahead for the same scenario when the murderer tries to kill us. The second way to handle it is to change our schedule and force him to think on his feet to draw him out of hiding. If he successfully killed us in 3 different time loops, then it means we're way too predictable. So if it were me, I would make sure we brought something completely unexpected into the situation and set a trap for the killer. The best thing about this scenario is that we get the entire day to plan ahead, which is why I would use my next death loop to first figure out how to get my hands on a gun. Now it should come as no surprise that in America, this is a very simple process, and it's common knowledge that you can buy a gun from even the most ordinary places. Now guns aren't exactly cheap, so if money was an issue, then I would visit the doctor here and demand he give me $2,000, explain that if he doesn't fork it over, I'll tell his wife that he's having an affair. Then, we can use our blackmail money to legally buy a gun and file a report at the police station explaining that we've received death threats and are scared for our lives. Now this might seem counterintuitive, but it's not enough just to shoot the killer dead. We have to consider that if the death loop ends, we will be held responsible for their murder, and unless there's very clear evidence that we were acting in self-defense, it's possible that we'll be arrested and thrown in jail. Going to the police in advance gives us a clear record that works in our favor, and that way if we manage to kill the murderer, the sequence of events will look like we were the victim all along. Suddenly, the girl wakes up screaming in Carter's room and freaks out. The death loop has started all over again, and the guy tries to get her to calm down, but she's too traumatized to listen. She quickly runs out of the building and stumbles through the campus in a daze, but that's when Carter catches up. With no one else to turn to, she breaks down in tears and begs him for help, but the girl doesn't realize this is going to get him killed. They sit in the cafeteria where Teresa explains that she's trapped in a time loop and has been murdered by a stranger every single night. The guy points out there has to be a reason why she's being targeted, and that's when the girl's ringtone goes off, playing a birthday song. He suddenly realizes that the murderer knows today is her birthday and is killing her for personal reasons. At first, the girl thinks it's ridiculous, but the guy suggests she make a list of people who know it's her birthday and start from there. The only problem is that there are a lot of suspects, but Carter explains she can use the time loops to follow each of them and find out which one kills her. That means she'll have to intentionally get murdered, and it's a brutal plan. With no better ideas, Teresa decides it's the best option she's got. list. Later, the girl makes a list and starts tracking down the suspects one by one. She stalks each person in a different loop, discovering that they aren't the murderer, but always gets killed before she can ever find out who the murderer is. That's 7 loops down, with 4 more to go. Frustrated from dying again, Teresa wakes up in Carter's room, but this time something's wrong. The girl's in horrible pain, and this has never happened on the previous loops before. She doesn't understand what's changed, but limps over to the door, determined to find out who's killing her. That's when Carter's friend barges into the room, and the girl suddenly faints in his arms. Neither of the boys understand what's happening, but soon the girl will discover that these time loops come with a terrible price. Later, Teresa wakes up in a hospital and sees the killer walking towards her bed. There's nowhere for her to run, and the girl panics, terrified that she'll be murdered, but then she realizes it's just Carter. He explains she collapsed earlier that morning, and Teresa's relieved she hasn't died yet, but that's when the lights shut off. Moments later, they turn back on, and the doctor is suddenly right behind her friend. He tells him the visiting hours are over, and the boy quickly leaves the hospital, but the doctor has some bad news. The man explains that her body has been so badly injured that Teresa should be dead, and the girl realizes that all the damage from the previous night are the only thing that's not resetting. That means with every death, her body will continue to break down, and she realizes she could still die if she leaps too many times. Okay, this changes everything. The doctor just told her that based on her MRI scan, she should already be dead. There's a very good chance that if we continue to get killed, our bodies will simply shut down from the internal damage. So now we have to treat these time loops like a finite resource and only use them when it's absolutely necessary. With that said, we also have no idea what this is doing to the space-time continuum. There's good reason to think it's setting off a chain reaction of other death loops because every action we take is altering the course of history. This is the very definition of a parallel universe, and even Peter Parker found out how disastrous this can be. Now, we don't know how many time loops we have left before permanently dying, but these kids haven't figured out that there's a completely different method to handle this problem. If it were me, I would strongly consider dropping out of school, booking an international flight, and going to the airport where there's security clearance. If the killer follows us there, not only would he have to buy a ticket, but he would also need to ditch his weapon to pass through security. It's also important to realize that this killer probably has a day job with real-world responsibilities and can't just take off to hunt us across the globe. When we look at it this way, it's pretty clear this whole situation isn't a curse, but a blessing in disguise. Right now, Teresa gets to live life with almost no consequences, because when things go wrong, she can reset to the exact same moment in time. Since the loop only ends when she gets killed, then it's reasonable to assume we could abandon all our responsibilities, live a long life of uninhibited freedom, and then die to start over again like it never happened. As strange as it sounds, the smartest thing to do here just might be to never solve the murder, and if we're going to get as much value out of these death loops as possible, then running away from your problems could give us the best life we could ever ask for. The girl tries to escape, arguing that if she stays here, she'll be killed, but the doctor holds her down. He promises to keep her safe, but the girl is not convinced. Distracted, Teresa asks for a drink from the vending machine, and the man agrees. But as soon as he walks out of the room, the girl gets out of bed and makes a break for it. She sneaks through the halls and heads to the doctor's office, knowing that's where he keeps his car keys. Entering the room, the girl searches the desk and manages to find them, but discovers something horrifying. Inside one of the drawers is a baby mask, just like the one the killer wears, and that means the doctor might be the murderer. Leaving the office, Teresa walks through the hallway when she sees the doctor searching for her, and the girl panics. He tries to calm her down, but that's when the killer suddenly sneaks up from behind and stabs him in the back. Terrified, the girl runs down the hall with the murderer chasing after her and races towards the parking lot. Searching for the doctor's car, Teresa presses a button on the key fob until she hears the vehicle beeping in the distance. She quickly heads to the lower level as fast as she can, moments before the killer comes sprinting out of the stairwell. He knows she's hiding nearby, and there's only one way for her to escape. Nervous, Teresa sneaks through the parking lot, keeping an eye on the killer, and notices he has his back turned. She makes a break for it, seizing her opportunity, but the man hears her footsteps. He chases the girl to the lower level, but loses track of his prey, never noticing that she's hiding behind an SUV. Desperate to find the doctor's car, she presses a button on the key fob, but the car starts beeping loudly. The killer now realizes where the girl is going, and Teresa sprints for the vehicle as the man chases after her, but she manages to get inside the car before the murderer can stop her. Putting the key in the ignition, she starts the vehicle and races out of the parking lot, but this escape plan is about to go horribly wrong. On the road, Teresa realizes that she's finally survived the night and celebrates, but that's when she notices something in the mirror. A police car is following after her. She has no choice but to pull over. Stopping the vehicle, the officer walks up to the window asking for her license, and Teresa desperately explains that a murderer is hunting her down, but the man doesn't believe her. He thinks she might be drunk, and that's when the girl quickly realizes that if he arrests her, she'll be put in a cell where the killer can't reach her. Lying, Teresa tells him she had a few drinks earlier, and the officer has no choice but to take her to the police station. Okay, you might think this sounds smart, but getting arrested by this cop is not a good solution. Drunk driving in the state of Louisiana can get you at least 10 days of jail time, which means we'd be safe. But as soon as we're released, the murderer is going to kill us. Like I said earlier, if we're going to run away from our problems, I'd much rather spend my time on vacation than in a jail cell. Now, if Teresa here was thinking clearly, she would have realized that every single time she got killed, it was between the hours of 9 to 10 p.m. If the murderer was this consistent in each death loop, it probably means he's busy throughout the day and might even work at this hospital. Now, there are some pretty good reasons to suspect that this doctor is the killer, because he meets a lot of the necessary criteria. First of all, he works on campus, he knows it's her birthday, and he's got a baby mask in his desk drawer. This can't be overlooked, but there's one small problem. Since almost all the staff were gone, the doctor had the perfect opportunity to kill the girl in her sleep, but he didn't. The fact that she woke up in the first place is enough to tell us he's not the killer, and since we can see here that it's already 9:23 p.m., we should expect the real killer to be arriving soon. Now, we have to give credit where credit is due. This murderer is so committed to the cause that he'll kill just about anyone who gets in the way. As scary as that sounds, it's actually a blessing in disguise, because if we can rely on him to act recklessly, then the smartest thing to do might be to lead him into town. Driving this car out onto an empty highway is just going to make it easier for him to hunt us down, where there are no witnesses to help. Instead, we should use his recklessness against him and lead the killer into a public area where there are enough people who can serve as both witnesses and meat shields to help us catch him. Now, since this story takes place in Louisiana, there are very few gun restrictions, and it's even legal for citizens to open carry in public. With this in mind, luring him off campus will give us a higher chance of running into someone who's carrying a gun and might help us stop him when we can't. The great thing is, the town traffic will also give us a better view of his vehicle. That way, we can memorize the license plates and use our next death loop to search the campus parking lot for the murderer's car until we find it. This allows us to create the perfect ambush for the killer when he least expects it, and kill this guy using his own disguise against him. The girl enters the policeman's vehicle thinking she'll be safe, but suddenly another car runs the man over, killing him instantly. The murderer has finally found her, and she panics, realizing she can't escape. Teresa can only watch as the man holds a burning candle out his window, and she notices there's a trail of gasoline leaking from the police car. The killer drops the candle, setting the fuel on fire, and the vehicle blows up with her trapped inside. That's 8 loops down, with 3 more to go. It's the most brutal death she's faced so far, and Teresa wakes up again in Carter's room, feeling hopeless. The girl has no clue how to stop this time loop from happening, and is tired of dying, but the boy has been reset and has no idea what she's talking about. Teresa walks out of the room, and Carter quickly follows her to the hallway, wanting to know what she means. Frustrated, she leads him outside the building and explains she's forced to relive her birthday forever, only to get killed and return to this exact moment in time. He doesn't believe her, but that's when she predicts everything that's about to happen. It's undeniable proof Teresa is stuck in a time loop, and there's nothing they can do to break her out of it. They sit down at a dining room when Carter hears her birthday ringtone again. Noticing how uncomfortable she is, he tries to cheer her up, but Teresa tells him she's exhausted. Her body is getting weaker with every loop, and she has no idea who is killing her. That's when she hears a news report about a suspected murderer being treated at the nearby hospital, and realizes that this man must be the killer. Hopefully, she heads to the hospital and warns the receptionist that their patient is about to escape, insisting they call the police. Running down the hallway, Teresa arms herself with a fire axe and slowly enters the murderer's room, but never notices that he's already standing right behind her. She searches for him and finds a dead police officer on the floor, but his gun is missing. That's when she turns around to see the killer aiming the pistol straight at her. He shoots the axe out of her hands, and the girl runs out of the room, scared for her life. In the hall, she warns the receptionist to escape, but it's too late. The murderer shoots the woman, and now he's coming for Teresa. Okay, this killer has managed to murder us in every single death loop so far, but this time it's much worse because he now has a gun. That puts us in a difficult situation, because confronting him directly is guaranteed to get us killed. We also can't run away and steal the doctor's car, because he wouldn't be here if there isn't a medical emergency. Now, grabbing the axe is an excellent idea, but not if you're taking it straight into a gunfight. We can clearly see that there's already blood on the window, and it means the security guard is probably dead. If he couldn't stop the killer, then this girl doesn't stand a chance, and stepping inside the room is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. That's why if it were me, I would take the axe and then pull the fire alarm before going down to a lower floor and locking myself in one of the rooms. Now, you might be thinking that there's still enough time to leave the building before he can chase us, but the problem with this strategy is that it's not going to help us stop the killer for good. Running away is just going to lead him outside where he has more opportunity to murder us, so it's a lot smarter to use the situation to our advantage and make sure he gets caught. Based on every other death loop so far, we already know that this guy has some way of finding our location and is determined to kill us no matter what. That means if the man can see that we're still in the building, he's going to stick around to look for us, which is exactly what we want. The fire department would typically respond to a fire alarm in under 15 minutes, and if we stay in the building, it puts more pressure on the killer to leave us alone, because the longer he stays trying to find us, the more likely he is to get caught. Teresa's also completely forgetting that she still has her phone with her and could call the police herself.
At FlexJet, you won't just be flown, you'll be moved.
At Olive Garden, we're all about more craveable classics and more made-from-scratch sauces, which begs the question.
And could call the police herself. She realized that this criminal was going to escape long before she ever reached the hospital, and it would have made a lot more sense to call the police from there instead of showing up and asking this receptionist for help. If she had called in advance, the police would already be here, and we wouldn't be putting ourselves in unnecessary danger. She makes it to the elevator and presses the buttons, but the killer quickly catches up. There's no way she'll survive this loop, and he removes his mask before pointing the gun straight at her. Suddenly, Carter tackles him to the ground, and the weapon slides out of his hand. Seizing her opportunity, the girl picks it up and tries to shoot the man, but it's completely out of bullets. With no one to stop him, the murderer brutally stabs her friend's neck, and the girl has no choice but to keep on running away. She races down a hallway and finds the doors on the other end are chained shut, but the girl is in luck. There's just enough space to crawl underneath, and manages to squeeze through, but the killer is right on her tail. Catching up, he kicks the doors in and chases her to the bell tower, but all he finds is an empty room on the other side. The girl must be hiding, and he yells at her to come out, but never notices that she's right behind him. Teresa smacks him with a crowbar, knocking the man to the ground, and is about to finish him off when she realizes that it's a bad idea. If she kills this man, the death loop might end, and her friend will be dead forever. She can't allow that to happen, and with no other option, the girl decides to end the time loop, waking back up in Carter's bedroom. That's 9 loops down, with 2 more to go. As soon as she sees him, Teresa runs over and thanks him for saving her life. The boy has no idea what she's talking about, but after everything she's been through, the girl is happy to be back and leaves the building determined to end this once and for all. She heads to her sorority where her roommate is waiting and apologizes for taking her for granted. It takes Lori here by complete surprise, but she forgives her and the girl heads out to confront the doctor. Meeting him in private, she makes it clear that she doesn't want to see him anymore and ends their relationship. The girl walks away to confront her killer, but this time she's got a plan, and there's nothing that will stop her from breaking out of the death loop. That night, Teresa goes to the hospital and sneaks up on the cop, holding a knife to his throat. She forces him to stand up and steals his gun, warning him that the murderer is about to escape and needs to go get help. Terrified, the police officer runs away, and the girl enters the room, slowly approaching the murderer's bed. She knows he's pretending to sleep and tries to kill him before he can react, but the gun won't fire. The safety is still on, and the man takes his opportunity, smacking the pistol out of her hands. She runs out of the room to pick it up, but he manages to catch her at the last second and throws her straight into a wall. The girl is too weak to stand, and the murderer is about to finish her off, but she's got one last trick up her sleeve. Suddenly, the lights go out, and when the power turns back on, Teresa is nowhere in sight. She's managed to get behind him, and with the gun in hand, shoots the man dead. It's finally over, and the girl can move on with her life. Returning back to the sorority, she celebrates her birthday with Carter and makes a wish. The only thing she wants is for this whole thing to end, and blows out the candle, thankful that the police haven't arrested her. Suddenly, the girl wakes up in bed, but something's wrong. She's back in Carter's room and realizes it's her birthday again, meaning the time loop isn't over even though she killed the murderer. It doesn't make any sense, and she runs out of the building, heading back to the sorority. That's 10 loops down, with 1 more to go. Bursting into her room, Teresa immediately begins packing her things. The only option she has left is to go on the run, or else she'll get killed again. Concerned, her friend asks what's wrong, and the girl tells her that there's nothing she can do to help. Trying to comfort her, Lori here offers a cupcake she made for her birthday, but that's when the girl remembers that she ate one in the previous time loop, and realizes it's been poisoned. Lori worked at the hospital where the criminal was being treated, and knew she could get away with framing him for murder. Okay, Teresa here is dumber than a sack of bricks. It was obvious that this girl was the killer, but the fact that it took her so long to realize this is just embarrassing. The truth is, every single one of our strategies would have uncovered this information, and if it were me, I would have used my very first death loop to follow Lori as suspect number 1. Earlier, her roommate was the only sorority member who wasn't at the surprise party, and that's really suspicious, because she went out of her way to bake a cupcake for her to celebrate. We also know that her work shift at the hospital ends before the party, so the only reason she wouldn't be there is because she was still outside setting a trap to kill Teresa. Checking her car's license plate would have also told us it was her, because since they're roommates, there's good reason to think she's parked somewhere close to the sorority house, and it wouldn't take us very long to find the same car that chased us down. We also knew that Lori here was able to access the girl's phone because she changed her ringtone to a birthday song, so it's common sense that the killer can find us wherever we go, that she must have turned on our GPS tracking to find our location. With so much evidence to work with and at least 10 days to discover the information, Teresa had no no excuse not to figure this out. If she's really this dumb, then it's important to admit your own limitations and find a different way to get some help. Now, Carter here could have been the best person to end these death loops because it took him all but 15 seconds to figure out that whoever's killing her knows it's the girl's birthday. He even helped her come up with a list of possible suspects, and this was after she had already been trying to solve the mystery for 3 full days. He's clearly a lot smarter than her, and that's why if it were me, I would use one of my death loops to kill him instead. It might sound counterintuitive, but if our death has somehow forced us outside of normal time, then there's a chance that if we kill someone, they might be forced to relive the same day as well. This would be a huge advantage, because if we trap Carter in a death loop with us, then not only would we no longer have to explain what's going on every day, but it also forces him to solve our murder for us in order to end the cycle. It might sound extreme, but there's no way to tell if this would work unless we try, and even if it doesn't, we can still reset the day and test something else instead. That's when the girl threatens to take the cupcake to the police. She's about to head outside when Lori throws the girl against the wall and locks the door so no one can get in. Confronting her, the roommate explains she wanted to kill her because she was jealous that the girl was sleeping with the doctor. Teresa is furious and she kicks her friend in the leg, determined to get revenge. They start wrestling with each other, but the roommate gains the upper hand. There's nothing she can do to defend herself, but that's when someone knocks on the door, distracting Lori long enough that the girl comes up with a plan. Punching the roommate in the throat, she shoves the poisoned cupcake into her mouth, and the girl backs away trying to spit it out. But Teresa isn't finished. She quickly stands up and swings from the chandelier, kicking her friend straight out the window. With the real murderer finally dead, the girl collapses to the floor in relief, knowing that the time loops have ended and she can die from heart disease like a true American.
But what do you think? How would you beat Happy Death Day? Let me know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, leave a like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos like this. Until next time, have a damn good day.
The best things in life are worth searching for. Pacifico, find your own way.
If you were stuck in a deadly time loop only to be murdered, if you were stuck in a blizzard with a horde of deadly Christmas creatures hunting you down, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat evil Santa Claus in Christmas. This family is about to be punished by a demon. The Engels here are getting ready for the big pre-Christmas dinner and making sure they have everything they need for their giant feast. The father, Tom, receives a call from his coworker and tells him that he has to work over the big day. The son, Max, asks his parents if they're not going to wrap Christmas presents, but Tom here tells him to do it alone before their cousins arrive. The others leave the kid by himself, and he walks over to his grandma, Omi, while icing his face. She asks him in German if he's finished the letter, and the kid admits that he started but can't think of what to wish for this Christmas. Meanwhile, the mother, Sarah, hangs up her family photo, but notices that Santa Claus here is looking away. The boy asks his grandmother if she still believes in Santa. She responds by saying that believing in him is the spirit of the holiday before she whips out a dessert for the kid to eat. Later, the strange cousins arrive and bring in a heap of gifts for the family. Howard here drops his gifts on the ground and confesses that he brought their dog along. Max here tries to strike up a conversation with his cousin, but the other boy just stares at him before walking away. That's when Aunt Dorothy walks in, complaining that the family didn't clear the ice on the walkway and scolding Sarah for not checking up on her before asking where the eggnog is. Tom here questions if there are more people coming, and the family realizes they left the baby in the car. The men leave to get her, and Sarah complains about the appearance of her aunt. Linda admits that she was forced to bring her along while the men return with the baby. At dinner, Howard's son gulps down a soft drink, burping out loud. The father congratulates his son and questions if Tom here ever played sports in school. He responds by saying that his time was occupied by being in the Scouts, and Howard makes fun of him in front of the entire table. The cousins question Max on what he's wished for this year and whip out the private letter that he wrote to Santa. They read out loud that Max wishes he could hang out with his sister more, admitting he hasn't got many friends. Next, they read that he wishes his parents could stop fighting so much and rekindle their love. Lastly, the cousins see a wish directed to Howard and Linda, worried for their situation and praying for their success in the new year. That's when Sarah walks in with the creme brulee, and Max here lunges at his cousins, demanding they give back his wish list. The kids begin fighting before Max is thrown down to the floor, and they're broken up. Furious, he freaks out and confesses that he hates his entire family before storming off.
AI is ready to work for you. With drug discovery tools powered by Dell AI Factory.
Thrown down to the floor, and they're broken up.
Furious, he freaks out and confesses that he hates the idea to turn off the main water valve in case pipes burst. That way the amount of water that comes flowing out will be less. In the case, she spots this worn down house covered in ice. Suddenly, a gigantic beast jumps from house to house, and the girl is terrified. She runs away as fast as she can, but the creature won't stop chasing her. Beth arrives at this delivery truck and shocked. She hides under the truck while hearing the creature making loud ominous noises. Looking around, the monster lands right in front of her as Beth covers her mouth. It's the scariest thing that she's ever seen, and it's going to be the last. Beth finds a music box where the creature was standing, and it opens up to reveal a horrifying sight. That makes one family member down, with 11 more to go. That night, the parents wait for Beth, and Tom here comments that there hasn't been a single person on the street since this morning. Worried about her daughter, Tom insists that she's all right and tells his wife to calm down. Max interrupts to ask where his sister went since the sun is about to go down, and she's not back. Tom informs the cousins that Beth has gone missing, and they're going to take a quick trip around town to look for her. The grandmother gets up, insisting that the family stay home, and Max translates for her, explaining that she wants them to wait until the storm is over to go look for their daughter. Now realizing that the grandmother is trying to help them, Tom leaves her in the care of his cousins and heads outside with Howard. They drive through the massive blizzard, wondering why the radio isn't working, but that's when they spot a snowplow in the distance and get out of the truck to see if anyone's stuck outside. The men check inside of the vehicle and spot gifts spread around the interior. They also notice that the key has been left in the ignition and point their flashlights towards a broken window. Tom comments that the glass has been punched in, and that means the driver didn't fly through the windshield. They spot the same frozen house and realize that it's time to look for Beth. It might look like an innocent rundown, but it's about to get extremely terrifying. Okay, so things are starting to get weird. Not only is the storm worsening, but radios and cell phones don't seem to be working either. The daughter has gone missing even when her boyfriend only lives a couple blocks away, and now they've just discovered a nearby truck has been broken into. The men have decided to look for Beth, but there are no signs of life anywhere to be found, and the whole situation is incredibly suspicious. We need more information to figure out what the hell is going on, and that's why if it were me, I would do everything I could to first make contact with the outside world. It's weird that the entire town has gone missing, and it's a major red flag that we can't contact anyone for help. Even though I want to find my daughter, for all we know the girl might be severely injured, and we have no way of contacting emergency services for help. We also can't be sure she hasn't entered one of these houses to get out of the storm for some reason, so quickly check in on each resident's houses to see if I can trigger an alarm system. This is a wealthy neighborhood, so it's fair to assume that any cars left stranded here are going to have alarm. If I'm able to set one off, the sound will draw attention to me and will allow any other people to know where I am. I would also look for different houses with alarms to break into. Even though the power is out, some alarm systems still work without the electricity, or if the house has a backup. Once the house alarm goes off, that will hopefully draw the cops out into our area, and once they are there, I will have them help me find my daughter and also bring my family to safety. If this doesn't work, and all the alarm services have been mysteriously disarmed, I would start foraging for supplies in different parts of houses. The most useful item is to find a backup generator, so I can get the electricity and internet working in my house. That way I can contact help and have someone come to collect us in an emergency vehicle. In addition to trying to set off alarms, I would also collect any non-perishable food supplies and medical supplies. The medical supplies are the most important right now in case we find Beth and she needs help. Once I have all the supplies I need to help survive in the long term stored back in the car, I would then proceed to go out searching for my daughter if I haven't already found her as I quickly house checks. Now, Max here was being quite an idiot. As I said before, if you see all this happening as soon as you project your faith in the supernatural, we can't ignore that it might be a little bit our fault. Even if you think it's just superstition, keeping this a secret is putting your family at risk, because in the smallest chance they're facing supernatural threats when they go inside, they won't be prepared for it. The men are armed with guns, but this will give them a false sense of security, because these weapons will be almost meaningless if they have to shoot down the ghost of Christmas past. It's just not going to work, and that's why I would have insisted they listen to what happened and take it seriously. We can expect they won't believe us, but if they encounter something that's unnatural, they will already have the information we gave them, and they'll be able to adjust their thinking much more quickly, saving their lives.
Style and substance. In the GMC Sierra, or current eligible GMC owners get 0%.
Saving their lives. The men get their weapons ready, opening the door, and pointing their flashlights around the ruined house. Howard here finds a knife planted in the fridge door, and comments that something here has gone terribly wrong. That's when he notices a hole in the wall, suggesting that a gas line might have blown out and caused the house to freeze over. They find these foot marks on the snowy floor, with Howard telling him that they're hooves. An animal has been inside here, but Tom questions what creature with hooves can walk on its hind legs. Suddenly, they hear Beth screaming for her life and rush outside to see where she is. Walking through the blizzard, Howard is taken away by an invisible creature and pulled into the snow like it's quicksand. Tom grabs his hand but struggles to pull the man's body out. Howard tells him that something is biting him, but that's when he pulls out his revolver and shoots at the creature. Watching as it escapes, Tom grabs his brother-in-law and walks him back to the car, finding that their vehicle is caught on fire. Meanwhile, Sarah here gets ready to leave her house, worried about the men's safety. They come rushing inside, and Tom demands that they make room. He insists that everyone stay in the house and stay away from the windows. Sarah notices that the man has been bit and calls for the younger ones to head into the kitchen. Tom tells the grandmother to follow the others, but she slowly turns her head and warns them to keep the fireplace. She knows something that they don't, and he's about to find out. Later, they patch up Howard's wound, and Sarah here asks Tom about their daughter. He confesses that they couldn't find Beth at her boyfriend's house, causing his wife to break down, and she demands they all head outside. Howard refuses, telling her that it's dangerously cold and all the other houses have been wrecked. Tom checks the fireplace and asks his brother-in-law how much ammunition he has left. He suggests they board up all of the doors and windows, making the house safe from any future attacks. Sarah questions what they'll tell the kids, but they walk in before she can prepare an excuse. Now the kids know that Beth has been taken by a monster, and it's terrifying. Later, Sarah prepares beddings for the night, and Linda here insists that her daughter is safe. The men finish up fixing the barricades, and Howard tells his brother-in-law that he's thankful for helping him out that day, mentioning that he's not as spineless as he thought. Max shows up asking his dad if they're going to die. He mentions that the grandmother hasn't been the same since the storm began. That reminds his father that she's always strange around this time of the year, and he doesn't know why, but they're all about to find out. Okay, everyone in this town is gone, the daughter is still missing, and Howard has been bitten by something huge. This is not good, and is bound to get way worse based on the speed and the size of the creature that attacked him. In order to keep the family safe, Tom needs to take the information he's collected on the beast to try to repel it. Based on the fact that there were hoof markings in the snow, and the creature used its teeth to attack Howard, we have good reason to think that this is some kind of wild animal that's hunting in the area, which means that we can take what we know about large animal attacks and apply it here to try to scare it away. Grandma here has already alluded to the fact that we need to keep the fire burning, and we should use this information to reinforce our theory to keep an advantage. Most wild animals are scared of fire and stay away from it when they see a campfire burning. And since we already know that the houses in the street are empty, I would try to light the house across the street on fire. It might sound insane, because we still don't know enough about what's going on, and the consequences here would obviously be crippling. If anyone knew we were lighting neighbors' houses on fire, we would get slapped with arson charges, and all of these kids would become orphans. We don't have enough information to warrant using tactics this extreme, but this is exactly why I would only suggest this strategy to my brother-in-law. This man's entire family has been bullying us since they arrived, and has turned almost every point of the gender conversation about his right to bear arms. The man literally packed cases of weapons in the back of his car on a family Christmas vacation to the suburbs, so it would be difficult to convince him that firepower is what we need in this situation. If we can make him take all of the risks onto himself, we can use better strategies to handle this beast without getting ourselves in trouble, and it's a win-win. The house across the street is the ideal house to set ablaze, because it's close enough that it will keep the beast away from us, but it's far enough away that the fire won't cross the pavement. I would first light a torch and wave it around to repel the animal as I cross the street. Then, I would siphon out gas from a broken down neighboring car. I would then break into the house through the window and break down furniture to light on fire. If the beast comes to get me in the time that I'm doing this, I would try to light its fur on fire. Once the house is on fire, I would return to my own house and use extra animal proofing to keep it away. Large animals like bears are also repelled by loud noises and smells like bleach and ammonia. I would take these chemicals and surround my house with it, as well as make loud pots and pans whenever I think the creature is nearby. No matter what, I would also attack instead of run. Tom has already had one run-in with the beast and survived it because he chose to fire his gun instead of turning and run. Trying to outrun predators like bears instead of standing your ground usually gives them more incentive to hunt you down.
Excuse me, play you for those ultras? Well, we're quite high level. Fascinating. Play for those ultras?
Big gives them more incentive to hunt you down. Tom sees Max off to sleep while they continue to keep a lookout. Howard suggests that they take turns keeping watch, with him deciding to take the first shift. Later, the family is sleeping peacefully and have no idea that the monster is about to strike. The fireplace is extinguished, and now they've made a big mistake, as a hook is sent down the chimney with the gingerbread man attached to it. The quiet kid Howie wakes up and notices the treat dangling from the fireplace. Walking over, he decides to take it for himself. The kid bites off a piece of its head, when suddenly it begins screaming in pain, wiggling out
out of his hands by tying a chain around the kid. He's lifted up the fireplace, and that wakes everyone up. Sarah tries to pull his legs down, while the entire family joins, but it's not enough. Sarah accidentally kicks a piece of firewood onto the kids, and they catch fire as the flames start to spread. Sarah freaks out and demands they pull her down, letting go of the kids' legs, and Howard watches as his son is taken away. That makes 2 family members down, with 10 more to go. Max puts out the fire while they try to figure out what the hell just